You hate it. I love it. It is The Shining. Let's get into it. Jack Nicholson. Wait a minute. Let's introduce ourselves.
You're the...
Am I first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I'm Maddie. Maddie's Movie Mix. Matt, actually. But here's Sherry.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry Irvin. I'm excited to be here today. Gotta admit, though.
Liar.
Yeah. I'm so lying. I'm so lying. Okay.
This is probably, for you, at least, one of the worst recording days that we've had so far.
I would concur.
I really enjoy The Shining. I didn't watch The Shining until probably around 2000, 2001. I had heard of it, of course. Stephen King is obviously a legend.
Absolutely.
He's written some phenomenal things. He's crazy, but he's written some phenomenal things. Very entertaining. He, Creep Show. He acted in that and wrote some of the screenplay, all that kind of stuff. So, clearly a legend at this time, even in 1980. Third novel, The Shining, written in 1977. And this was a fun movie for me when I finally saw it. But it is not your favorite.
No. I'll have to admit, I did not watch The Shining when it first came out. Everybody was flocking to it, and anybody that knows me knows I am a fan of horror, but I chose not to watch it. So I didn't watch it until years and years later when it hit VHS, and I'm so grateful because I could kind of breeze through it, stop, start, stop, start. That's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
However, when going back and watching it now, for real, and actually paying attention for this purpose, I really loved the starting scenes when he is traveling through Glacier National Park. You're looking, you're going along the side of a mountain, thinking...
Yeah, that helicopter where, they're getting...
Absolutely amazing. Stunning views.
Yeah.
And then even going into the Overlook Hotel.
Yes.
Just the cinematography on there was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love that part.
The joke is that Stanley Kubrick continued to edit this and cut this until the day he died, right?
Did hear that.
Have you heard that?
I did.
I mean, it's like he's cut it so many times, it's insane.
And I love Stanley Kubrick. He is pure genius. Also, doing my research, incredibly hard to work for.
Massively flawed human.
Massively. But, some of the movies that he's had, Eyes Wide Shut, Open Wide Shut.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange, 2001 Space Odyssey.
Odyssey, yes. Fantastic.
Yeah.
But Manacle on this set made his actors to tears.
Yeah.
Especially, he was really hard on Shelley Duvall.
Yeah. Well, he was actually really hard, and a lot of people didn't know this until years later that it really came out that Scatman Crothers. I mean, he was so hard on him that Scatman himself decided that he wasn't going to quit because that's what Stanley was going for. Because Stanley wanted somebody else, and I can't remember who.
I don't remember who. I know he. I don't know who he wanted, but I do remember seeing that he was so happy when he started Bronco Billy.
Yes.
Because there wasn't the 101 takes.
So there was I believe, if memory serves, and I don't think I have this in my notes, but there was 144 takes of Scatman Crothers
with Danny.
At
the table there.
Exactly. Which is a Guinness Book of World Records, by the way.
Yes. And even the baseball scene, or with the tennis ball. 50 shots to get that straight line.
Yep.
I'm like, kidding me?
You know how, you probably do know, do you remember how long it took them to actually film this?
I heard from the research I did, and there's all kinds of different sites. I looked at a few of them. I heard it was like 500 days. because the one producer needed to get back in time to do another movie.
Yep, it was over a year.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Which is insane. I mean,
and the dedication. So the guy would do 1 week on this movie, take a train, do another week on the other movie, and kept doing that.
yep.
The dedication for that, wow.
What so many people think too is that the Overlook Hotel, while it's based off of a particular hotel, it has actually not been filmed in that hotel. They Stanley has come out and said, or did before he passed, had come out and said that he had his team go and take pictures of literally hundreds of hotels, and took I can't remember, was it 5 or 6 of them or 4 or 5?
I thought it was. Well, he ended up with. I think he ended up with the 3. So the
3,
the gold room is not there.
Yeah.
The other, they're all from different hotels.
They're all from different hotels,
Yep.
and they built the sets in London.
Yeah. Yeah. Is
And
that
I
not
thought
wild?
for so many years until researching this that they actually had done the hotel, that this was the Overlook Hotel.
And that maze wasn't part of that either. And what was fascinating for the snow maze, over 900 tons of salt and styrofoam to make that maze.
I also heard that maze was, so the maze was done, and it was actually in blistering hot temperatures.
No,
Like,
they didn't
they
have
were
air conditioning.
sweating.
Yeah, they would take their clothes, go to strip to as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because of the heat. Yeah.
That's insane.
That is dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's a genius. His art is not flawless by any means.
No.
There's a lot of things that went wrong in this as far as storyline goes and some of those other things. But I think, in fact, the twins were 8 and 10 were said, but they're clearly twins.
Lisa and Louise.
Yeah,
Burns, yep.
and so a lot of disconnects in the storyline. Do you think that has something to do with how long it took them to film it? Because they were like, let's throw this in there,
I do and I don't. To me, this is just my opinion on it. Take it for what it's worth. But it is / cabin fever, schizophrenia gone wild.
Yeah.
And to watch, however, what I did love was watching the progression of Jack Torrance being
Right.
somewhat normal, business writer, school teacher, and then seeing how maniacal he got, where his appearance changed. However, I do know that he's portrayed as a recovering alcoholic who goes back.
Right.
So it was
Well-
interesting to see. It was interesting to watch that progression of the paranoid schizophrenia, what isolation can do to you.
Do you think that, so in some of the film, it seems to portray that he was also had the ability to do The Shining? Do you think? I mean, it's sort of, they didn't directly like focus on that.
No.
But because of the alcohol, I think that was some of the things that he had to do to suppress The Shining, maybe.
Actually, being honest, I don't think Jack had a whole lot of that. But
You
it
don't
is
think
ver-
so?
but it is really apparent between Scatman and Danny, and I
Yeah.
kind of love how that came about, the Shining, and the being able to communicate without speaking, and the telekinesis, and pretty genius actually.
I think so too, but it's kind of different than the book. And I've never read the book. I've just a lot of notes on it. And I think that, so in 1997, was it Steve Weber that did played Jack in The Shining, Stephen King's Shining? Do you remember?
no, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
I think that's who it was, the Wings.
Oh yeah.
The Wing Star.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I don't really care to see it. It has absolutely no traction. It has terrible reviews. But so Stanley Kubrick, being who he is, let's just say it, he's the asshole who he is. So part of Stephen King's deal, was with the book and selling the rights to the movie, he actually had to write the first, not necessarily the last, but the first screenplay. Stanley Kubrick said, and his assistant Diane said, we had never intended to have any part of what Stephen King said would be in the screenplay. So they literally took it, you fulfilled your contract, threw it in the trash, and started over.
Well, and I read too that Stephen King actually hated it. He totally hated it, and he didn't even want Jack Nicholson.
But it took him till '97 to make it a movie.
And he didn't want Jack Nicholson. He wanted Jon Voight.
Yes.
And also, they were also, and Stanley was also looking at Robin Williams and De Niro. Didn't like how he was in Taxi.
I think De Niro really had a good shot at it.
He had a really good shot, but then he ended up not liking it because of how he was being portrayed in Taxi. He didn't, and he didn't think that would be crazy enough.
Sure.
And Robin Williams in the Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
So
Jack, because all through the 70s, Jack was kind of that crazy guy anyway.
Crazy guy.
Yeah, as his acting parts. That's a good point.
So, but I think, they're kind of down on Shelley a little bit, but I really think Shelley rolled with it. I thought her character was, even though she was weepy, they had to keep her in hysteria all the time, total hysteria all the time, but I think she was a total mom. She nailed it. She nailed it.
She was also crazy.
Oh.
And can you imagine though how I mean, so it was supposedly 3 years later or whatever that Danny broke his was it arm or
his shoulder?
Yeah, shoulder. That's right. Can you imagine a mom sitting in the hospital and saying that and defending the alcoholic husband though? It's like he abused him then, but not now. Yeah. Which is it's good, and it's also like, wow.
Can't see that in a hospital, but it was a good thing that they did it in the doctor visit the home.
The doctor visit right, exactly. So sorry, I said it wrong. The doctor.
Yeah.
And so it was like she's defending that, and you can see this loving mom, that really cares about Danny and stuff like that, but yet also kind of defends the husband. That has now been sober for 3 years. But in the film, he says that he hasn't had any, or he's been on the wagon or whatever he said, I can't remember now, for 5 months. So he's sneaking.
Oh, yeah.
Those little things like that Stanley Kubrick is good for. Those little tiny things that...
those little nuances.
Yeah.
Well, what I thought was really...
It makes you always question.
What I thought too was total Warden June Cleaver type settings. She's wearing just the oddest clothes, and then she's sitting there with the doctor and they're smoking. She's smoking, that was the thing.
I know. I remember that.
Yeah, that was the thing where you could smoke in the hospital at the time.
Yes.
And I thought that was kind of comical, and the doctor's kind of going through this litany, but I did not think me being the person. I guess I'm used to the horror of today, because to me this was not near scary. It was kind of a psychological thing. You're absolutely right, though. It was kind of like, for back then, it really made a lot of sense. Today, it doesn't. Not at all.
It just doesn't fit. We have a lot of especially Japanese type horror kind of set up in that real freaky.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But so this, when you look at it from today's standards, is awful. When you look at it from they just came out of, was it The Omen in the late 70s? You look at it from that perspective, there's you can kind of follow that track, of this makes a lot of current sense.
I thought The Omen was way more frightening than...
Truly. This was more of a psychological thriller, not really a horror, the way I look at it.
And that's the one thing that I love about horror movies. It's not necessarily the actions in the horror movies.
Yeah.
I think it's the soundtrack. It's the music. When John Carpenter's music is coming on for Halloween, you hear that.
Yeah, totally.
Blair Witch, it's the background.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah.
And yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. Cinematography on this, though, some of the shots you had, they kind of, or editing, I suppose you'd call it, but they had and I mean, it's a 1980 film, so spoilers. I mean, sorry if you haven't seen it, we're just going to give them. But It's been a long time, folks. The Jack Nicholson, when essentially they jump from one scene to him with icicles, right? That kind of editing back then was pretty amazing. Like they went from that kind of scene to him frozen with icicles hanging off of him.
Yeah, it's not like you can go on a computer screen, edit. You have to slice and dice the film and piece it together.
Yes.
A lot more work back then to make a movie than it is today.
Yes, absolutely. And to think of the makeup artists that were involved in that, because it wasn't obviously him. It's, whatever, some sort of mold or whatever of him.
I kind of love the fact, one of the trivia facts that I liked in here was Stanley had his daughter, Vivian.
Oh, yes.
And she was part of the art department. And she was in that scene where she's sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Smoking a cigarette, looking all dull in the ballroom.
Yeah.
The gold room.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Which was kind of neat because when they brought it back and forth, and then at the end, that end photo, 1921 or whatever it was.
Eerie.
That was eerie, but that's a real photo.
Real photo.
And they didn't have Photoshop back then, so I don't know. However they did it, pasted it in there but his face.
I think the significant was to prove the point that he was always a part of the hotel.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That was fun.
And I don't know if you saw the scene as he's coming into the gold room, even though he's not there yet, they're showing him in the mirror.
Yeah. The mirror stuff was cool.
Yeah,
yes. They had a lot of that, actually. They did. Absolutely.
And Danny on a strike.
Yes.
Going through hallways, but because I actually watched a YouTube video on The Shining, on the quirks of The Shining, the quirkiness of The Shining, and where they have him, where he's going down the corridor there, down the hallway.
Yeah.
That corridor didn't even exist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was pretty wild. I'm like looking at that. I'm like, so then when I was looking at The Shining, watching this, I'm like, oh, holy crap! Yeah, they flipped.
Okay.
They flipped it.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like, oh wow, kind of cool.
That is very cool. One of the things too that I blew my mind when I heard about this, the blood scene. That was actual, literal, fake blood. That wasn't like water.
No.
That they put dye in.
No.
They bought gallons and gallons of fake blood.
Fake blood.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. So that was the thing that cost them a ton of money too, because they did that scene twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, not once, twice.
And that's about.
So a crew came in and cleaned all that up.
I know. And that looked like about 500 pounds of blood going through the whole.
Oh man.
Big time for budget. Considering that, there again, they had a budget, from what I read, they had a budget of $19 million.
Yeah.
And for U.S. box office, it brought in 45.6.
Yeah. Yep.
Worldwide, 47.
It's 47, yep. It didn't hit much at the time. It didn't hit many theaters. So a lot of that money later came when it got some traction and kind of a cult following.
Yep.
They re-released it in worldwide, but yeah, it was mainly in the U.S. It's crazy. I actually had more fun learning about the trivia behind this movie. For instance, anybody that knows Jack is really, and I've known this all along, Jack's really big into Wimbledon. Yeah. So he fakes a back injury to go to Wimbledon. Stanley sees him in the stands. No kidding. With other women. And he's with Angelica Houston at this time. Oh, wow. Busted. And then a lot of people didn't know that. Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know too, which I thought was fascinating, is Stanley is a huge chess person. So he stopped production a day to go play chess with the garage guy. No kidding. Yeah. Totally shut production down for a day to play chess. That's crazy. I did. I thought that was like, no way, you're going to stop major production. Yeah, to play with Tony Burton, the garage owner. No kidding. Yeah. Wow. Shut down production. And then, and then another thing, Jack Nicholson didn't want Shelley Duvall right away. He wanted Jessica Lange. Yeah, and I can't see that She fit, Shelley is not an attractive woman,
Not really.
and so she fit that part very well, in my opinion.
Yes, she did.
I mean, she just did. She actually filmed this before Popeye, which we talked about Popeye recently, but she filmed this, well, I mean, it took a year and a half or almost or whatever, but so she filmed all this before that, was devastated by how she was treated on the set with specifically Stanley Kubrick, and then got, didn't she get a Razzie or something too? Or
she did,
didn't
but
get it, but was nominated for a Razzie for Worst Actress?
Yeah.
I thought she did a
Thought she
great
killed
job.
it. Thought she killed it. But when she goes back into later interviews, even though she got treated badly, she said she would never trade that for anything because he pushed her.
Yeah.
He pushed her to
Right.
be great.
Right.
And I thought she was great. I thought she was way better than Jack.
Totally. Absolutely.
Way better than Jack.
Yeah.
Another fun little trivia. You know how the title got inspired, right?
No.
The title got inspired by a Beatles song.
No kidding.
Yeah, Instant Karma was the name of their song, and
Okay.
that line in there, "We all shine on."
Sure.
So that's how The Shining came about.
So that's how he wrote the book
Yeah.
in 1977.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Jack Nicholson actually got Scatman the role. They were friends.
Yes, correct. I thought I did, but I wish I had who he wanted, who Stanley wanted. But I just don't have it. Because Stanley wanted somebody else, and he wasn't available. But then because filming took so long,
Yeah, the
he
500
became
days.
available. So he was pushing Scatman to basically quit, but he wouldn't. He was
no.
like, I refuse to do it, which is why the Guinness Book of World Records, 144 takes, which is good for him. He's like, he gave him the finger.
Yep. Also, what I loved on the trivia too is Jack Nicholson wouldn't take the script. He wouldn't memorize anything until the day of, because once he got
Okay.
the script, Stanley would be like, "We need to do another take."
Sure.
So he'd rip it up, and Angelica Houston also said that he'd come home and he'd just go right to bed because Stanley just kept hammering
Yeah.
at him, hammer, scene after scene after scene after scene. Do it again, do it again, do it again.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
drive me like, wow,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
really?
Yeah.
Not to mention at that time, you're spinning film.
Oh, yeah.
Film is expensive. It's not like technology here. You're spinning film. You have actual cameramen, and they're Can you imagine how worn out the tape is? I mean, going take after take after take.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I would say personally, I highly recommend people watch it. That's probably not in your wheelhouse, but that's okay. I think that it's a really there's what do they call them, like Kubrickians or something like that, like that worship Stanley Kubrick, that think he's
Kubrickians.
yeah, that he's flawless and perfect and all that kind of stuff. While he's driven, while he's artistic, while he revolutionized a lot of things, invented a lot of things. I'm not taking that away from him at all. But it's not perfect.
No.
It's far from that. It is entertaining. Whether you like it or not, The Shining has a lot of entertainment value, for a lot of people, with all its flaws. So I recommend people watching it personally.
I personally feel that it was more of a breakout role for him, but his later stuff just got better.
It did,
I love Space Odyssey.
which was before.
I think a lot of his later stuff got a little bit better.
Clockwork Orange was pretty good. I saw it once back then. Have you seen it?
I have not seen that one. I saw
Yeah.
the eyes one.
Yeah, which is
Tom
one I
Cruise.
haven't seen actually.
And that's freaky. That's a little
Sure.
bit. It's a little bit weird, and you definitely see where Stanley's weirdness comes shining through.
Yeah.
Because
I know Tom Cruise and him didn't get along.
well, I could.
Does Tom Cruise get along with anybody?
Yeah,
But
probably not.
you know.
I'm not a big.
I'm not either. I think he's a phenomenal actor, but I think he's an incredibly odd person. We'll just leave it there.
Yep.
But yeah,
I do appreciate I guess the one thing that I really enjoyed the most about this movie was the outdoor scenes.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was just majestic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The rest of it, pretty weird. Could have wrapped up a lot quicker than
It could have, for sure. Yeah.
But
I think there was some of those things in there, though, that Stanley wanted us to ask questions, right? Like, what was that about?
looking back on it now, I truly do believe that Jack Nicholson was perfect for that role.
For sure.
I cannot see John Voight in that
No.
role. Cannot see Robin Williams.
They wouldn't
or
have been
anything.
crazy enough.
No, and it, like I said earlier, to see that level of crazy through each scene,
Yeah.
to see the shutdown and the isolations kicking in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was good. I liked it. I just did. In 2000 or 2001, I can't remember what year it was, but somewhere right around there. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad you did.
That was actually when DVDs started coming out, in the early 2000s. Everything was coming out on DVD, so I watched it, got it on DVD back then.
Yeah.
So,
It definitely will hold its place in a cult classic.
for sure.
It'll always be part of the vault.
Yeah.
It will have its place in Hollywood history.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
yeah, I mean, I believe it or not, I am a Jack Nicholson fan.
Yeah.
I really do, but I liked his later stuff, Feel Good Men, Witches of Eastwick. I kind of liked more of that than The Shining. But,
Sure.
But like I said, I really do think that he was perfect to
Which was
portray.
what, about 15 years later, probably?
I think he did a great job portraying Jack Torrance and
Yeah.
making that character from, faking it to just full-blown crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Tell us what you think. Send us a comment or an email at legit. Wait a minute. I'm not supposed to say that. I'm supposed to leave it to you. Do you
Isn't
remember?
it legit
Q.
at maddiesmovie.com?
MaddiesMovieMix.com.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's
I'll
all right.
get
We'll
her
put it on the
eventually.
screen. It's all good. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Hammer the share button. Go ahead and hammer out a comment to us. Go ahead and hammer the like button. Go ahead and hammer the subscription button. Go ahead and hammer the notification bells, because you know what? That's the best way you can support us. We appreciate it.